next week, Secretary Rubio will host foreign ministers from Australia, India, and Japan for the 2025 Quad Foreign Ministers meeting on July 1st in Washington, D.C.
And then for something completely different, and I'll stop after this, just are you aware of any RIFs being issued today?
At this time, I have nothing to announce on that front. I'm not aware of anything to that effect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Tommy. I'll keep with the reorganization. So I'm just wondering, so you guys have the July 1st deadline for state reorg, right? There's an injunction by a federal judge that effectively blocks the department from implementing agency-wide layoffs. And there's SCOTUS potentially weighing on this. So can you tell us, if we don't hear from SCOTUS by July 1st, which is Tuesday, is the State Department still going to go ahead with reduction in force?
Well, I'm not going to speculate and tell the future on hypotheticals, but I can tell you we have no plans here at the department to violate a court order.
Right. So you're saying that if SCOTUS between now and July the 1st does not weigh in on this, then the July 1st deadline will inevitably be postponed?
Well, my first answer stands, and I'm not going to speculate further on that. We have no plans here at the department to violate
Okay,
a court order.
one more on this. We understand the Foreign Affairs Manual recently has been tweaked to prepare for the foundation of the RIF procedures. This administration has eliminated DEI, and it said it's bringing back merit-based. However, we understand that some of the RIFs will depend on where a foreign service officer, for example, is working at the moment. And there are critics who are saying that that type of criteria basically ignores the years of knowledge, experience, language skills these officers have accumulated. So can you help us understand how this is going to be completely merit-based?
Well, look, what I can say is from the beginning, as the Secretary has said, this reorganization is about making sure we're able to meet the challenges of the 21st century, being able to move at the speed of relevance, as the Secretary says. It's about empowering people instead of a bureaucracy. And I think it's also important to note the process of this from the beginning, a full transparency in this process, communicating with the American people, with Congress, from the very beginning on this. So the point of this reorganization is, again, to move at that speed of relevancy. Again, I'll stress that I don't want to speculate moving forward exactly on what may happen, but I think it's important to remember the track record of how we got here and the ultimate point of this and what the American people, I think, would expect when it comes to meeting those challenges that we face today.
Thank you.
Could I ask a follow-up, though?
Yeah.
If the point is to move at the speed of relevancy, would experience, language, and previous posts, wouldn't that play into consideration?
Well, ultimately, what we're seeing here is wanting to make sure the State Department is able to meet those challenges. That's been this whole process that's been communicated from the beginning to make sure we're effectively meeting those
So
challenges.
you would take those into consideration?
Well, I think what
Language proficiency, for instance?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate on certain individuals or get too specific on hypotheticals. But what I can say, as the Secretary has said, is this reorganization is about making sure we're empowering people, not bureaucracy, that we're able to meet those challenges in an effective way. He has spoken to that routinely. He has spoken to that publicly. That's the point here, and I think the American people expect to see that.
If I may, I also wanted to follow up on something that Matt raised on the GHF. There's been a lot of criticism, almost universal criticism from the Arab world, from the UN and others, about the distribution process or limited sites in southern Gaza, no access in northern Gaza, the deployment of IDF troops, monitoring access in violation of certain international norms and the Geneva Conventions. Can you tell us, as the U.S. is about to begin funding, whether they are expanding the sites to more sites so that they can equal what the World Food Program and others had done previously?
Well, look, what I can say is, again, that 46 million meals distributed to date. That's something that should be applauded. We've talked about here in the past different distribution sites that have been opened, but I think this is an example of seeing that aid that has been distributed. And President Trump's commitment, Secretary Rubio implementing that vision here to get aid to the people of Gaza. So we're seeing those 46 million meals, and then we're seeing from there the fact that we're seeing this $30 million approved.
But if I may, if you do the math, there are 2 million people in Gaza. If you figure that families have multiple children and that this process has been going on now for nearly a month, 46 million meals don't amount to feeding the population of Gaza.
Well, it's 46 million meals that have been distributed. That is a positive thing. And we call on other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in its work as we have this $30 million that are approved. We're seeing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in line with President Trump's call to deliver aid in a way where it can't be looted by Hamas. We're seeing those creative solutions. We're seeing the fact that we have 46 million meals distributed. That is good news that we have those meals being distributed. And we call on other countries to join in supporting the GHF's work.
Can I have a follow-up on that, please, Tommy?
Okay.
Every time there's been a distribution in some of those centers, there's been chaotic scenes, and according to the Palestinian sources, shots and people actually dying, heading towards these centers. Now, the Israeli army is saying it's investigating and all that, but it seems to be a pattern from the beginning. So do you have no issue with that whatsoever? What's your take on that?
Well, there are two factors here. First, we refer you to the IDF on their investigations. Second, I would remind you that many of these reports, some of these reports, are based in Hamas propaganda. So we have two factors here when it comes to some of these reports. Ultimately, we want to see aid reach the people of Gaza. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has delivered 46 million meals. We've seen that. We want to see that food being delivered. We see the $30 million approved. So that's what the story is here, moving to implement, get those creative solutions in there to make sure that the aid being distributed is not being looted by Hamas.
And just to follow up on that, you said $30 million. Has that money actually been given to the foundation already?
It's been
And to whom?
It's been approved. That's as far as I can go on that front. Yes.
Yeah, just to follow on what everyone is asking about, you say you want to see aid get into Gaza. Are you pushing the Israeli government to allow other groups into Gaza to distribute aid? Today, GHF was the only one allowed into the Strip.
What we're pushing for is for other countries to join us in supporting the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work.
But there
That's what
are
we're
other
pushing
groups
for.
who had been established and had methods that were able to distribute more widely before the restrictions of the Israeli government. So are you asking them to also lift these restrictions?
What we're pushing for is for other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation being able to deliver that aid without it being looted by Hamas. And again, that's about that creative solution that President Trump has said from the beginning. So we call on other countries to support the GHF in this.
Sticking on the JHF, do the Americans plan on playing, other than the role of a benefactor here, any other role in terms of management, in terms of security? There were 8 Palestinian GHF contractors that were shot dead, last week. What is the role here other than here's cash?
Well, look, fundamentally, again, we're wanting to make sure we get those resources in a way that helps deliver that food, helps deliver that aid. I have no further details for you at this time. We may have more details in the days ahead. But ultimately, this is about those 46 million meals and trying to get more aid into Gaza in the sense of that $30 million that's been approved.
I'm going to stick on this subject just for a little bit more. You keep saying that the story is the distribution of 40 plus million meals, and we're trying to just point out all of the other multifaceted angles of what's going on here, given that the government is about to invest a lot of money into this. So I'm just wondering, why, again, to Jenny's question, does this mean the US government doesn't support the World Food Program trying to get into Gaza right now? If not, why not? We're just trying to get a clear answer on why is it just one organization and not the others?
Well, as I just said, what this indicates is the fact that we have $30 million approved for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's what this indicates. We've also seen the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as I was saying, been able to deliver aid in a way that is not being looted by Hamas. The story here, again, as I've said, as you pointed out, is that 46 million meals. That's the story here, and the fact that we're encouraging other countries to step up and support this. The president's been clear. He's been looking for those creative solutions to get aid into Gaza. This is one of those indicators showing a follow-through on that commitment from Secretary Rubio here implementing that vision at the State Department.
And I don't know, sorry, if I could just have one more. I don't know if you've seen in the last couple of weeks, there was an American security contractor who used to work for the organization. He wrote his experience in ZTO, and he described how the contractors, the Americans going to work for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, were themselves not getting enough sleep, not getting enough to eat. He describes how some of the contractors were picking up food from the ground, food that was supposed to go to the Palestinian people. I'm just going to very quickly read this to you. He said, "We're telling crying women trying to pick up food for their families that they had to go, and they were looking at this food on the ground that they desperately needed, and they couldn't take it. He said it was absolutely horrific. So when you say the story is that they are getting millions of meals out, the other side of it is that there are many more people who are not getting food, and it's not enough food, and the security situation on the ground, other stories are starting to come out about people who are actually there. So do you have a comment on the experience of some of these contractors who you're about to fund?
Well, every single one of these briefings, every single day, we have conversations about the situation in Gaza. Every single day, we have those conversations. And every single day, we've been working in terms of trying to figure out creative ways to get aid to the people of Gaza. Every single day, we've been working on that. The humanitarian situation, trying to address that. Every single day. And what we're seeing here is that $30 million commitment to this organization. That is what we're seeing. That is the commitment that President Trump laid out in terms of trying to get those creative solutions in there. So that's really what we're talking about here, that $30 million going to that organization, the 46 million meals. But of course, we're aware of what's happening in Gaza. That's part of why the president had this commitment to get aid in there, but also to get to that ceasefire, get to that peace, talking about long-term prosperity for everyone in the region. The fact that the people of Gaza have suffered tremendously under the hands of Hamas. The president has spoken about this continually, so has Secretary Rubio. So that's part of what we're seeing here, that $30 million to this foundation. And we encourage, as I said, other countries to also join in supporting this effort.
On Iran, there's been some perhaps mixed messaging on the diplomatic outlook. The president has said he doesn't think a deal is necessary, but Special Envoy Witkoff said yesterday that he's hoping for a comprehensive peace agreement. If talks with Iran do indeed happen next week, as the president said they would, can you say what the goal would be for those discussions?
Well, I refer you to my colleague Caroline. She spoke about this at the press briefing at the White House. One of the things that she said there was the goal of an Iranian meeting is to obtain long-standing peace in the region, and I have nothing further to add to her comments.
So no nuclear agreement would that be necessary?
Again, nothing to add in addition to my colleague Caroline's comments.
The Russian Defense Secretary Andrei Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk. Kursk is Ukraine territory. Do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks? First part, the Russian Defense Minister, Defense Secretary Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk, Ukraine territories. So do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks?
On the issue of North Korea support for Russia or vice versa, we've spoken to that multiple times from this podium. I refer you to those earlier comments from myself and spokesperson Bruce. As the president has said many times, we hope to see that ceasefire, that long peace. We've been working for that, engaging with that. Ultimately, it is up to the parties in order to reach that.
One more.
You talked about at the beginning. What exactly is being signed tomorrow? Because Nobel Peace Prize winner Denis Mukwege said that this peace process has been opaque, non-inclusive, that this deal rewards aggression. He's been very critical of this. So I'm wondering what exactly is being signed here.
Also, first of all, as you mentioned, tomorrow Secretary Rubio will host the ministerial signing of the peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda right here at the State Department. There are provisions on respect for territorial integrity and a prohibition of hostilities, disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism that incorporates the CONOPS of October 31st, 2024, facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access and a regional economic integration framework. So, though I would stress also what was mentioned in my topper, that it is with implementation of this agreement that the economic investment and development we all want to see will be possible.